Bum 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 bum. Hey everybody, John Warcraft here. This is episode 2 of our developer diaries with the creation of Legion coming out later this year. The developers and designers and PR people and all the great people in the big wide world of World of Warcraft wanted me to come on here and tell you a little bit about the vision of my dad and the original vision for the World of Warcraft that he had and that I had and that everybody else had coming into this. Into this game. So today our episode is going to be about the Crossroads, the most important part of the original World of Warcraft, not the true Warcraft, as we like to call it, not the new Warcraft, which is what you're probably used to today. So we're going to talk a little bit about the way that works, about the Crossroads, and everything that's going on with the Crossroads, some of the people that are there, all the things that matter, and all the ways it ties into the stuff that my dad wrote in the original Warcraft novels, and of course the pen and paper game of World of Warcraft. So with all that said, here we go. So as you might know, this is Clemia Stormcloud, probably the most important character in the Crossroads here. So Clemia was one of the most big and story important characters that my dad wrote about in the fourth Warcraft novel, The Wings of the Elven Princess. And so what's important here is that Clemia is retired. It doesn't do anything much with the plot of the game, at least in the World of Warcraft, but in all the previous information, very, very important, does a lot of different things. This tent, as you know, if you have read that novel, is where he went after the first fall of Lordaeron. And so, after the first fall of Lordaeron, Clemia Stormcloud, not Stormcloud at the time, Battlebrand, original name, holds on to the first sword and wields the first sword at the sky. Now, I know that some people, because of the way of the retcons in World of Warcraft, understand that to be the incorrect sword. It would be the sword of day and light. That's not correct. My dad would never have approved of that. It's definitely the first sword. So it's interesting to see a very important character like that appear in a game like this, and with this new high resolution model. I mean, look at this. Look at this little look at this fella here. I mean, you can tell this is a hero. Look at these tusks. There's no one that's a hero who wouldn't have these kinds of tusks here in the World of Warcraft. So just important to get that right, to make sure that the record's set straight on that. And I hope these video editors get that in right. I hope they don't try to take that away from me. More importantly, take that away from my dad. So yeah, so just important to get this character right. Like I said in the first episode of the series, it was very important for my dad, for all of the ecology of Warcraft, and all of the space and all of the population and everyone who existed in World of Warcraft. It was important for all of that to be accurate and proper to the way that the game is made. And so the Crossroads here, it's of course crossing the roads between Orgrimmar, the big capital city of orcs, and the Thunderbluff, which is of the Tauren, the big capital city. So it was very important for him to get everything right, to make sure everything made sense in a logical manner. A lot of the criticism of the novels, as you well know if you have read those novels or if you're a fan enough to be watching this video, a lot of the criticism is that he spends a lot of time talking about the way that people farm, or the way that people get their water, or the way that people get their electricity if they're in particular parts of the game. So that's you take what you get with that, and you throw away some of the stuff you don't like with it. I've done a lot of skimming of those novels. I wouldn't say that no one else could either. But what's important here is that the Crossroads is definitely a wind-based economy. You can see here that's the lumber mill right in front of us, or maybe even the granary. It's unclear. It's not really told in the fiction, but we do know, since he wrote in that second novel, about the Crossroads in particular, and about the way that the windmills are always on top of this one particular white building right beside the gate, beside the totem. You can see the totem over here beside the NPC who's riding and driving around here. And so that's really just an important kind of perspective thing. Just like the graves and the Valley of Trials, this is important to my dad, or was important to my dad, when he was making these kinds of games. You might also recognize Yehan Hawkwing as being the character who helped forge the important swords that feature in the 9th, 10th, and 11th novels. He's not particularly important in World of Warcraft either. Crossroads is kind of a locale that we took what we knew from what my dad had written and what we wanted to get into the world and what we wanted to make work and what we wanted to explain and what we wanted to expand and what we wanted to make sure the fans could recognize. Because, you know, you got 30 years worth of fans who want to be looking at stuff in the game, and you got all that stuff you need to put in there. They're going to want to recognize that. They're going to want to see it. Not everybody can, Stormwind Castle or whatever. So right here we put Yehan Hawkwing. He's just a leather and mail armor merchant, but because he's a merchant, everyone's going to see him. They're going to go to him to get their repairs, and so we thought that was a nice trade for one of the big important blacksmith characters from later in those novel series. You can see up here just some of the increased attention to detail. This is all directly out of the books. Once again, some of this is from the source book from the original pen and paper game, and some of this is from the novels. But you can see that Fala Sagewind is up here. Got this beautiful little staff here, this little mace. Ready to hit a drum, maybe, to give you something. I believe she is a druid or a shaman. Just someone up here who's going to reward you with a little bit of a special something if you know where to look for her. But you can see here she's got a wind-powered grinder over here to get her special materials, to get a little bit of corn in there, to put this little Hawkstrider, whatever this thing is right here. It's got a little more skin than feather than you might have thought, but yeah, see, the wind power here is very, very important, and of course we can see the Crossroads right here. We're right outside of town, still within the greater Crossroads area, but right now we're going to go to somewhere that's a little bit further away that's just as important for every player in the World of Warcraft. This is a spot that many people are going to be familiar with. This is the Halving Caverns, a place where people who love music and love laughter and love going to the Emerald Dream with a bunch of sleeping dragons. It's where they go to hang out. And lots of low-level players who come in here and just learn how to play the game. You can see it's got a nice kind of skull motif to it. But let's fly on in here and see what's going on here in the Halving Caverns. Oh my word. Oh my word. Oh my word. Oh, there's creepers in here. There's coilers creeping and coiling, and plasmid. There's looks like a little froggo here. Don't be afraid of the froggos. Don't be afraid of the ectoplasm. We're in first-person mode here. It's a developer mode in World of Warcraft that really just keeps us from having to be afraid of anything in particular. You can see that this is exactly the way it is in the source book. One of the first sample dungeons that you can go through in the first edition Warcraft source book, Generation 1 as we like to call it, of the first true Warcraft. It's the Halving Caverns. You can see it's right here. Here's the lurker pit. If you can see this lurker here, these deviant lurkers. Very, very important. Killed a lot of early party members, I'm sure. Killed a lot of people in that first iteration of the game, and we're just gonna go all the way in here in this lush oasis here, and it's just beautiful. It's just beautiful. It looks nothing like the rest of the Barrens. It's just a great look at that. That's well, something spraying up in the air. I don't know about that. So let's go into the actual instance here and see what we can come up with. So this is Lord Serpentis, and you might remember him if you've read any of the Warcraft novels or if you've played the World of Warcraft pen and paper game. My dad wrote the original first novel of Warcraft. Oh, I can't get it out today. Of Warcraft, and then began to write the pen and paper campaign. Right at the same time, his best friend Ted wanted to play the game, wanted to make a guy that was very powerful, could do whatever he wanted to. My dad didn't really like him, but he said, all right, we'll let you play the game, we'll let you do whatever you want to do. He made Lord Serpentis, and they had such a good time playing the game that by the time that the third novel rolled around, my dad put him right in there as the main character And so Lord Serpentis is very, very important for this whole world, and he's part of the introduction to players into the World of Warcraft, just because they're going to be doing Wailing Caverns so much, so often. I mean, most players are going to do this 40, 50 times just to get through the 2 levels you need to get up into the big leagues of actually playing the game, which we'll talk about in a future episode. So, Lord Serpentis, let's do some of this business. Let's show Ted what he really deserves. How about that? How about that, Lord Serpentis? And what's interesting here is Verdan the Ever-Living. So Verdan the Ever-Living was added much later. He was added in what's called New Warcraft. Oh, hold on. Let's solve some problems here. So Verdan the Living was added in what we call New Warcraft, or Not True Warcraft, or Not Original Warcraft, and he's just a big old beast here. They've summoned him, and he's gonna live forever unless we do something about it. My dad would never have approved of this character. And let's see where we can go now. Alright, so last thing, before we go for this episode, it's run a little bit long, but I want to talk about the Living Rock. One of the things that my dad thought was very important for a game was to be able to know that everything in the world is trying to kill you, because, of course, the Game Master, or as the War Master, as my dad named it in the pen and paper game for World of Warcraft, called Warcraft, the War Master was the entire world in and of himself, and so what that meant was that all of the things here, all the rocks, all the trees, all the little people, everything was the War Master. And so what that means is that you could be killed by anything. My dad was very, very into the idea of being killed by everything, and that's been difficult to translate into a video game. We've had a lot of writers meetings, we've had a lot of designers meetings, we've had a lot of character modeling meetings of trying to figure out what it means to make something look so mean that it could kill you. And we think this rock, the Living Rock, we think that the rock is very good at being able to do that, to scaring people into doing right and doing what they're supposed to be doing. Alright, thanks so much for tuning into this episode of the Developer Diary for the World of Warcraft. I'm John Warcraft, standing in for my dad, John Warcraft Sr., who sadly could not be here today and can't be here any day because he has passed away tragically several years ago. Next time, we're going to come back and we're going to talk about some other stuff in the World of Warcraft that you want to know about before the release of Legion this fall. So get on board for World of Warcraft with me, John Warcraft.